Everyone assumes understanding spoken French is just about keeping up with the speed of it. But well, I'd studied for years, passed the Delft B2, and could even read the occasional French novel. But the moment I was met with something I didn't understand in a real conversation, I froze more often than not. I kept thinking, what am I missing? It turns out the real problem wasn't speed. It was how much I relied on written French to understand spoken French. Donc, I'm going to show you 3 things French people do in conversation that trip up every expat and how you can finally keep up. Allez, c'est parti. Here's the first thing. French people don't pronounce every sound in a word. They drop them. Complètement. And when you're listening, you're waiting for the full word you learned in your textbook. But that word never arrives. So your brain just stalls. It's not that you don't know the word, you do. You just don't recognize what it sounds like in the wild. And look, you already do this in English. You've probably heard other channels give the example of I do not know becoming dunno. You don't say, what are you doing? You say what sounds like, what are you doing? Or even, what you doing? You're not even aware you're doing it, but that's what foreigners hear. French has the same idea, just different shortcuts. You just haven't heard them enough yet. And the fix is exposure, not more studying. Listen to this and try to pick out just 2 words. We'll listen to it twice.
J'ai envie de continuer et là ça fait à peu près 3 ans que je fais de la musique.
Let me play that again.
J'ai envie de continuer et là ça fait à peu près 3 ans que je fais de la musique.
Que je fais de la musique. In a textbook, that's je fais de la musique. But listen, je fais, and now a bit faster, je fais, even faster, je fais. De la becomes de la. Multiple sounds gone at once. But here's the thing, even if you only caught musique, you got enough of the gist. The disappearing sounds were already happening. Your brain was using all the context already and compensating for the missing sounds. You just didn't know it. That's progress, and that's actually your ear already doing its job. Now listen to this one. 2 different reductions of the same sound within seconds of each other.
Il y a des milliers d'euros de différence à l'achat.
One more time.
Il y a des milliers d'euros de différence à l'achat.
You know il y a. You've known it for years, but in conversation it becomes il y a, or even just ya. Same phrase, same speaker, different moment. That's the kind of range you're dealing with every time you sit in a cafe or watch a French film. These aren't mistakes, this is just French. So here's what you do. Take any phrase you've been hearing but not catching. Play it once at normal speed, then once at 75% speed, then 3 normal plays. Do 1 phrase a day, and within a week, most people notice it starts clicking. Not to translate it, just to let your ear find the shape of it. Like when a waiter says, je sais pas. Same phrase, fewer sounds. You already know the words, je ne sais pas. You just need to hear the blurry version of it enough times for your brain to connect the written form to the spoken form. No grammar lesson here, just ear training. You don't need more vocab. You need more versions of the same words. The longer you've been learning, the longer it might take to adjust to this new approach, but just stick with it. And sometimes it's not just one word that gets shortened, whole phrases melt together. Let me show you the second thing that happens, word melts. Often it's not one sound that disappears, it's several at once, and then the words stop sounding like separate entities. They melt into one stream. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You can't hear when one word ends and the next word begins. And no amount of written French helps you there because what you hear doesn't look like what you learned on the page. Listen to this clip from one of my classes. Again, we'll play it twice.
Mon père ne serait peut-être pas mon père biologique.
Encore.
Mon père ne serait peut-être pas mon père biologique.
Ne serait peut-être pas. 5 words. Written down, you know every single one of them, but spoken at normal speed, they melt into something like ne serait peut-être pas.
Ne serait peut-être pas mon...
One continuous sound event. There's no clear gap between the words for your brain to find its footing. Now this one, also from a class. This is what French actually sounds like in the wild.
Je vois pas bien ce que ça a à voir avec mon enquête.
One more time. Again, just try to hear chunks of sounds.
Je vois pas bien ce que ça a à voir avec mon enquête.
Je vois pas bien ce que ça a à voir avec mon enquête. 13 clear words when written. In conversation, je vois pas bien ce que ça a à voir avec mon enquête. If you didn't know it was French, you might not even recognize it as French. And that's the point. This is normal spoken French, not you failing. That's just Tuesday morning at the boulangerie. And you're standing there thinking you missed a word, or 5, or 10. You didn't. The words just melted together, like gruyère in a fondue. Anyway, and if you've been watching French content with subtitles on, here's something worth knowing. Subtitles often show the cleaned up textbook version of what was actually said. So you hear one thing, one French if you like, but you read another, and your brain thinks you missed something, but it didn't. The screen just tidied it up. Your ears aren't broken. So now, how the hell do you get the hang of this level of French? Well, you go chunk by chunk. Break the melt into 4 or 5 mini chunks. Repeat each one 5 times, then chain them together. 2 chunks, then 3, then the whole line. For this sentence, it could be je vois pas, ce que, and in your notes you might write something like je vois pas and ce que. Ça a à voir avec mon enquête. I personally don't hear a V when I hear avec, so I'd write something like this. Here's a quick tip. You're not taking a spelling test, you're training your ear. So write whatever phonetic spelling helps you remember the sound. Okay, let's do the first 2 chunks together. I'll say it once, then you do 4 more. Je vois pas. Good. 4 more. Ce que. Très bien. And again, 4 more. Then you do the same thing with the next chunks. And once each chunk is solid, you stick them together. This takes a bit of practice, but every single rep you do is fusing that sound with the spelling that you know already. So lesson number 2 here is stop trying to catch this word by word, because the words aren't separate anymore as you know them. Learn the whole melt chunk by chunk before building up slowly to the full line. Not ne serait peut-être pas, but something like ne serait peut-être pas. Ne serait peut-être pas, and have a spelling that represents what you hear. And say it loud and proud 5 times out loud. That's how your brain files it, as one sound unit attached to the written form you learned in class, ready to recognize next time. Currently in its filing system, it has the same spelling for the written and spoken forms. You're going to make incremental updates, as many of my students do in their shadowing classes, but you can do this by yourself. At any age, your brain works this way. It doesn't need to be 20 years old in a classroom. It just needs repetition. And when you can say the melt, you can finally hear the melt. And even when French is clearly pronounced, you can still miss it, because the problem isn't the sounds, it's what your brain pays attention to. French conversation is full of sounds that don't change the core message. They're not content words, they're not grammar words, they're filler words. They buy thinking time or just fill silence. You won't find them in a textbook. And when you hear them, your brain treats them like a word it should know but doesn't. So it chases them. This is very instinctive. And this is one of the biggest reasons you freeze in French. Your brain grabs the wrong word and the sentence, of course, keeps going. And while it's chasing, the actual message has already gone past. Listen to this.
C'est festif et tout, voilà quoi, moi j'apprécie beaucoup.
One more time.
Que c'est festif et tout, voilà quoi, moi j'apprécie beaucoup.
Strip everything back and the message is simple. C'est festif, j'apprécie beaucoup. That's it. That's what he said. But between those two thoughts, you've got et tout, vague filler, French for and all that. You've got voilà quoi, which signals he's wrapping up his thought and means nothing beyond that, really. And then moi j'apprécie, which in natural French collapses into moi je, which we've covered in part 2. This is 3 layers of interference around a 2-part message said very quickly. If you're translating word for word, no wonder the ear gets lost. Now here's another clip. Watch what enfin does here.
Moi, j'ai des jambes j'ai des cuisses qui prennent du muscle, j'ai un genou globuleux.
And here it is, once more.
Moi, j'ai des jambes j'ai des cuisses qui prennent du muscle, j'ai un genou globuleux.
She uses enfin, often shortened to just fin out loud, not to mean finally or end, as you might have learned them to mean. She's using it to self-correct, to add precision to what she just said.
Moi, j'ai des jambes j'ai des cuisses qui...
If you learned enfin as finally, as I did, and you hear it mid-sentence like that, you'll spend the next 2 seconds trying to make finally fit, and you'll miss everything that comes after. Bah, du coup, quoi, eh ben, voilà, enfin, genre. These are the ones you'll hear most. None of them change the message, but all of them will distract you if you let them. So here's the shift. Stop trying to catch every word and start listening across the whole passage of speech. Try to keep your ears open. The filler words are just noise. The content words are signal. Those are what communicate the message in what is said. When you hear something you don't recognize, don't chase it. Let it go and wait for the next real word. The message will come together. It always does when you stop blocking it out by translating word for word. And here's the truth about why you're still struggling with these. Your brain simply hasn't had enough repetitions of these fillers to file them away as ignorable, but it will. At any age, with enough exposure and the right mindset, your brain learns what to filter. And that's just not blind encouragement from me, that's just how pattern recognition works, and I've seen it in practice over and over. So now you know the 3 things that French people actually do to words: sounds that vanish, phrases that melt, and fillers that hijack your attention. And here's what matters. Every single one of these has the same solution: repetition. Not grammar, not more vocabulary, just your ear and enough reps. So here's your first task. Find a cafe, sit down for 30 minutes and just listen. Don't try to understand everything. Hunt for one of these reduced phrases. 1 word melt and 1 filler word. C'est tout, that's it. 1 of each. The cafe is perfect for this because the language is transactional, a narrow set of phrases, but every customer is different. Every order is different. Every server has their own fillers, their own reductions. That's not studying, that's just living in French with your ears switched on. And if you want something to take with you, not just for listening, but for when you need to speak and the words won't come, I've put together a free guide in the description. It's called the French Conversation Starter Kit. 2 short guides, practical strategies that made me a confident French speaker. But voila, knowing why you freeze when you listen is only half of it, because the next time a French person speaks to you, you still need to hold the conversation together in real time, even when you don't catch everything. And that is a completely separate set of skills. I spent years learning those the hard way, 21 lessons worth, and they're all in this video that's appearing on your screen right now. Watch that next, because without it, what you learn today only gets you so far.